Welcome my YouTube channel. Hit&Hurt Nick BRAWL stepped into the ring under the bright lights, the roar of the crowd washing over him like a tidal wave. It was his second defense of the WBA Featherweight World Title, and the stakes were high. At just 27 years old, he was facing a battle-hardened veteran in TJ Doheny, a former world champion in the super bantamweight division, and a man who had seen it all in the squared circle. Doheny, now 38, came in with a clear goal: to make history as the oldest fighter to win the WBA featherweight crown. But youth, power, and relentless energy stood in his way. From the opening bell, the fight had the unmistakable feel of a war waiting to erupt. The tension wasn't just tactical, it was emotional, personal even. The weigh-in 24 hours earlier had already foreshadowed the hostility, with both men getting in each other's faces. That needle carried over into first round, and within moments, the two fighters were already tangling, not just with fists but with attitude. Nick BRAWL, true to his style, started fast. He crouched low, ducked inside, and looked to crowd the older man. His strength lies in his pressure, an almost suffocating kind of forward momentum that rarely gives opponents time to think. For Doheny, the challenge was as clear as it was daunting. Keep BRAWL at range, use lateral movement, and pick him off as he comes in. Southpaw versus orthodox always adds complexity, with lead foot positioning and awkward angles creating constant adjustments. Doheny tried to use that to his advantage. In the early rounds, he had some success catching BRAWL as he lunged in. His jab was crisp, and the straight left hand found a home on more than one occasion. But even when he landed, BRAWL never took a backward step. Instead, he smiled, reset, and pressed again. Things nearly boiled over in a second when Doheny held on to BRAWL in a clinch for too long, prompting BRAWL to respond with petulant and highly unorthodox kick. The referee, Michael Alexander, stepped in immediately, calming tensions and issuing warnings of both men. It was a brief but telling moment, revealing the frustration building inside BRAWL as the more experienced Doheny used every trick in the book to slow him down. Despite that, BRAWL gradually began to assert control. His footwork, often underrated, allowed him to cut off the ring effectively. He started go to the body with short hooks and uppercuts, chipping away at Doheny's stamina. Round by round, BRAWL's combinations grew more fluid, his pressure more precise. Doheny, for all his grit, couldn't hold back the tide forever. By the middle rounds, around the 6th and 7th, the effects of BRAWL's relentless attack began to show. Doheny's mouth hung open, a sign of fatigue. His right eye began to swell, the product of countless jabs and hooks. Yet he fought on with the heart of a true champion. Every time BRAWL landed something big, Doheny tried to answer, even if the punches no longer had the same snap they did earlier in the fight. By round 9, the turning point was undeniable. BRAWL had been warned earlier in the fight for rough tactics, and in the 9th, after throwing Doheny down again, the referee had seen enough. A point was deducted. Ironically, it was perhaps the spark BRAWL needed. He exploded out of deduction like a man possessed, backing Doheny into the ropes and unloading a flurry of shots to the head and body. Doheny took them, but he no longer had the same response. His legs were heavier, his arms slower, his eyes puffy and half-closed. The punishment was adding up. The 10th round began with a sense of inevitability. Doheny was surviving now, not winning. BRAWL stalked him, fists up, eyes sharp, sniffing blood. The crowd, vocal and partisan, sensed it too. Doheny showed enormous courage, trying to fire back when he could, but nothing deterred the champion. BRAWL ripped hooks to the body, clipped uppercuts through the guard, and wore down Doheny's resistance until the corner had no choice but to step in. Referee Michael Alexander waved it off. Doheny's corner had seen enough. There was no knockdown, no sudden collapse. Just a series of rounds where the challenger absorbed too much damage and offered too little in return. It was the right call, and Doheny, ever the warrior, accepted it without protest. Nick BRAWL roared in triumph, climbing the ropes, the belt back in his hands. This wasn't just another defense. This was a statement against a former champion, against a tactician, against a veteran who had more experience than most fighters see in a lifetime. BRAWL had dominated, adapted, and ultimately overwhelmed. What stood out most wasn't just BRAWL's physicality. Yes, He's strong, yes, he throws with menace. But in this fight, there was a maturity, an understanding of when to brawl, when to box, when to take a breath. He ate some clean shots early on, made some tactical errors, but corrected course and upped the gears round by round. For TJ Doheny, this may mark the final chapter of a remarkable career. He didn't win, but he showed why he's respected in the sport. There was bravery, intelligence, and a refusal to give in easily. Against a younger, hungrier champion in his prime, Doheny stood tall until the end. The question now turns to BRAWL's future. At featherweight, the landscape is loaded with talent. Unification bouts, big names, and marquee fights await. Fighters like Ray Vargas, Luis Alberto Lopez, or even a rematch with Raymond Ford could be on the horizon. On this form, BRAWL looks ready for any of them. And yet, for all the noise of future fights, it's this performance, a relentless, intelligent, punishing victory, that will linger. Nick BRAWL didn't just retain his title. He proved that he belongs at the very top of the division. And perhaps he's only just getting started. Subscribe channel.